Welcome back to Creepy Corner Stories. And tonight, we step into the darkness, where the line between shadow and spirit blurs. Have you ever caught something out of the corner of your eye, something that shouldn't be there? A dark silhouette, still, but somehow watching. Strange shadows that move when everything else is still, that vanish the moment you turn to face them. You're not alone. Tonight, we explore chilling encounters with the unexplainable, stories from those who swear the shadows in their room weren't just tricks of the light, but something far more sinister. So turn down the lights, make sure you're alone, and whatever you do, don't look too long into the shadows. Because sometimes, they're looking back. Let's begin. It started when I moved into a small, single-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. The building was old, one of those places with creaky wooden floors, dusty vents, and a smell that clung to the walls no matter how many candles I burned. But it was cheap, and I needed a fresh start. The first night was uneventful. Just the usual sounds of an old building settling. But the second night, something changed. Around 3:17 a.m., I remember because I checked the time, I woke up to this overwhelming feeling that something was watching me. You know that sensation when you're not alone, even if the room is empty? It was like that, but heavier, suffocating, almost. I sat up in bed and looked around. The room was dimly lit by the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds. And that's when I saw it. A shadow. It was standing in the far corner of the room, tall, impossibly tall, with limbs too long and thin to be human. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, maybe the coat rack or the reflection of something. But then it moved. It shifted, ever so slightly, as if swaying, watching. I couldn't see its eyes, but I knew it was staring at me. My body froze. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare back. Then it stepped forward. The shadow didn't make a sound, but with each movement, I felt the air around me grow colder. And then, just as it reached the foot of my bed, it vanished. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Over the next few days, things escalated. I'd see it in the hallway mirror, standing behind me, but when I turned around, nothing was there. Lights flickered when I passed by. Objects shifted ever so slightly from where I left them. I even started hearing faint whispers at night, never loud enough to make out words, but close enough to know they were real. Then one night, I invited a friend over. I didn't tell him everything, just said the place felt weird. He joked about ghosts and suggested we record overnight to see if anything strange happened. So we set up his old camcorder and left it running while we slept. The next morning, the camera was smashed on the floor. The footage was corrupted, except for one short clip, just 10 seconds long. It showed me, asleep. And right next to my bed, there it was. The shadow. Its head slowly tilted toward the camera, and then it grinned. I didn't even know shadows could grin. That was the last night I stayed there. I moved out the next day, left half my stuff behind. I didn't care. I just wanted out. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I still feel it. Like it followed me. Like it's still watching. Waiting. It happened to my cousin Nadia. She's not the type to make things up, grounded, logical, the kind of person who keeps a flashlight next to her bed just in case. But after what she went through, she doesn't even sleep in the dark anymore. It started with a door. More specifically, the door to the spare room in her house, the one she never used. It had always stayed shut, and for years, nothing strange had ever happened. But then one morning, she woke up and found it slightly ajar. Odd, because she never opened it. The room was basically empty, just a few old boxes and some broken furniture from the previous owners. But still, something about that open door unsettled her. She closed it, locked it, and tried to shrug it off. The next morning, it was open again. Only this time, there were footprints on the dusty wooden floor inside. Long, thin footprints, as if someone, or something, had walked in circles around the room. But what chilled her to the bone was that they stopped right at the threshold. As if whatever it was had been standing at the edge, staring out, waiting. She called me, panicked, whispering that something was wrong. She wasn't eating. Wasn't sleeping. She said every time she passed by that door, she felt it. A presence. Heavy, hungry, patient. She started hearing scratching behind the walls at night. Soft at first, but growing louder, more desperate. Sometimes, the scratching was followed by a faint thud, like something was throwing itself against the wall. Trying to get through. One night, she called me again, this time sobbing. I saw it, she said. She was standing in the hallway when the door creaked open by itself. And there, just beyond the frame, was a shadow. Not cast by anything, not from the window, or her figure, or the lamp. It was darker than the darkness around it, like a hole in reality itself. And it moved. It stepped out of the room. No sound. No footsteps. Just this living void that stretched as it moved, changing shape, crawling along the wall like a stain come to life. It had no face. No features. But she felt its attention, cold and deliberate. She ran, locked herself in her room, and didn't sleep till sunrise. She finally brought in a priest. He didn't stay long. Walked into the house, muttered a few words, then turned pale and said, "Whatever this is, it doesn't want prayer. It wants fear." That night, she heard a voice from behind the spare room door. Whispering her name. Slowly. Repeatedly. Nadia. Nadia. She moved out the next morning. Didn't sell the house, just left it. It's still there, by the way. And that door? Still open. Neighbors say they sometimes see movement in the upstairs window. A shadow pacing back and forth, long after dark. They say you only see the shadow once. After that, it sees you. This story comes from a man named Faraz, who lived alone in a high-rise apartment on the outskirts of the city. He worked night shifts, came home at dawn, and slept through the day. He liked the silence, the isolation. Until the silence started whispering back. It began with dreams. Every night, he dreamed of a hallway, endless, flickering with dim yellow light, like a hospital corridor left behind. At the end of the hallway, a figure. Not quite a person. Not quite a shadow. Just a black shape, standing motionless. Each night, the dream repeated. But the figure was closer. At first it stood at the end of the hallway. Then halfway. Then right outside the door. Until one night, he woke up to a sound, knocking. 3 slow, heavy knocks at his apartment door. He told himself it was the neighbor. Maybe a drunk. Maybe a prank. But then came the voice. Soft. Calm. Familiar. Faraz. It came from inside the apartment. Not loud, but close, as if whispered right into his ear. He turned on every light, searched every corner. Nothing. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. Over the next few days, mirrors began acting strange. He'd catch glimpses of himself not moving. Not blinking. Standing still, while he moved. One night, his reflection smiled, but he didn't. That's when he started seeing the shadow. Not standing in corners. Not lurking in the dark. But following him. Even in daylight. In the mirror behind him. In the glass of a bus window. It had taken on his shape. But it wasn't him. He said the worst part wasn't seeing it, it was hearing it. The things it said. Whispered thoughts in his own voice. Why are you still fighting this? Let me in. You're tired. I can take over. Then came the night he blacked out. He remembers sitting on the floor of his apartment, staring at the wall, whispering things he couldn't understand. When he came to, his phone was full of photos, hundreds of them. All from the front camera. All of him. Eyes wide open. Not blinking. And in the last photo, the shadow was behind him. Tall. Twisted. Its hand on his shoulder. He moved out the next day. Changed his number. Blocked all the mirrors in his new place. But sometimes, when he's walking past windows at night, he swears he sees his reflection moving a little too slow. Like it's trying to stay behind. Waiting. Her name was Layla. She was a night security guard at a construction site, new development, barely any lights, half-built buildings, and long stretches of concrete and rebar. Most nights were boring. She'd sit in her booth, drink bad coffee, and scroll through her phone. But one night, around 2:30 a.m., she noticed something strange on the camera feed. A figure. Tall, blacker than the night around it. Standing still at the edge of the site. She blinked. It was gone. Probably a glitch, she thought. Or the camera caught a passing car's shadow. But just to be safe, she got up and walked the perimeter. Nothing. The place was silent, still. The next night, it came back. But now it was closer to the building. Standing just beneath one of the scaffoldings, not moving. She stared at it through the monitor, heart racing. And then, without the feed glitching, it turned its head to face the camera. She ran outside, flashlight shaking in her hand. But again, nothing. No sign of movement. No footprints in the gravel. Just silence. Layla tried to shake it off, but something changed after that. The shadow started showing up every night, closer and closer. And she started seeing more than one. First 2. Then 4. Then 7. Lined up across the edge of the construction zone, like soldiers awaiting orders. Always just outside the light. Always watching. She quit the job after a week of that. But the worst part? They followed her. She saw one in the reflection of a bus window. Another in the stairwell of her apartment. Standing one step above her. Not moving. Not breathing. Just there. Then came the whispers. You left the gate open, Layla. You saw us. You can't unsee us now. She tried to sleep during the day, but the shadows were always just behind the curtains. Just outside the bedroom door. Her cat started acting strange, hissing at empty walls, refusing to enter certain rooms. She tried to get help. Therapists. Priests. Paranormal investigators. But every time someone came to help, they saw nothing. And then, they started disappearing. One therapist went missing a week after their session. A priest's house burned down in the middle of the night. Her best friend who came to stay with her vanished. All that was left was a photo on Layla's phone, her friend asleep on the couch, and behind her, in the dark corner of the room, the shadows. No one believes her. She doesn't leave the house anymore. Every light is on, 24/7. Her windows are sealed. Her mirrors are covered. But the shadows still come. Now there are 12. And they're getting closer. Outro idea for this one. They say you only see them once. But once you do, they see you forever. If you think you've spotted something moving just beyond the light, don't look twice. Because the more you notice them, the stronger they become. It was a small town in the north, where winters are long and silence settles thick. That's where Armin lived. He was a quiet man, worked at a local bookstore, kept to himself. Everyone knew him, but not well. He was the kind of person people forget, even when they see him every day. But then, he changed. It started slowly. One day he stopped greeting customers. Just stood behind the counter, eyes glazed, staring at the back corner of the store. People said it looked like he was listening to something. That corner was always dark. The overhead light had been broken for years, and no one had ever bothered to fix it. But after a while, people started feeling wrong when they walked past it. Like the air was heavier. Like the shadows there were deeper. Then came the day Armin didn't speak at all. Just stood in the dark corner, unmoving. The next day, he didn't show up to work. A customer came in and found the shop open, but empty. Armin's coat still hanging on the hook. His tea, still warm. But no Armin. They searched for hours. Police got involved. Nothing. No signs of struggle. No trace. It was like he had just dissolved into thin air. But here's where it gets disturbing. 3 days later, a new shadow appeared in that dark corner. Not shaped like anything natural. Tall. Slouched. With what looked like arms, far too long, nearly dragging along the wooden floor. People started avoiding the store entirely. The owners shut it down. But sometimes, if you pass by late at night, the lights flicker on inside. Just for a moment. And if you look through the dusty front window, you'll see someone standing in that dark corner. Not moving. Not breathing. Watching. And the face, though sunken and blurred, is familiar. It looks just like Armin. I don't remember the last time I saw my reflection. It started about a month ago. I noticed it in little things. Mirrors that showed the room behind me, but not me. Photos where my face looked wrong. Smudged. Like the camera couldn't focus on it. I told myself I was just tired. Overworked. Maybe even having a breakdown. But then the dreams began. Every night, I'd wake up standing in a corner of my room, face pressed to the wall, arms hanging loose. Like I'd sleepwalked. But not just anywhere. Always the same corner. The darkest one. And I wasn't alone in the dream. There were others in the shadows. I couldn't see them clearly, but I could hear them breathing. Whispering in that strange, hollow language, like the rustling of dead leaves and ash. I didn't understand it at first. But now, I do. They've been teaching me. Sometimes during the day, I black out. I'll be in the kitchen, blink, and suddenly I'm in the basement. Or staring at a wall for hours with no memory of how I got there. I started recording myself. Watching the footage back was the biggest mistake of my life. There I was, standing in the hallway. But my shadow, it didn't match. It was delayed. It moved after I did. And then, it started moving on its own. It raised its arm, before I did. Like it was leading me. Guiding me. Controlling me. Each night, it gets worse. My skin feels cold even when I'm in the sun. Lights flicker when I enter a room. Animals avoid me. I don't cast a shadow like I used to. And worst of all, I don't feel afraid anymore. That's how I know it's almost done. They said, in the whispers, that fear is the last piece. Once you let go of it, you cross over. You stop being prey, and become one of them. Last night, I stood in front of a mirror. Just a blank surface stared back. No reflection. No face. Nothing. And I smiled. Because deep down, I know now. I'm no longer being haunted by shadows. I am one. I wasn't afraid of the dark. I studied it. Obsessively. While others feared shadows, I chased them, digging into ancient folklore, forgotten rituals, and tales of things that lived between the flickers of flame and the silence between breaths. That's how I found the ritual. It was buried in an old forum, deep in a thread that had been locked for years. The original post had been deleted, but someone had saved the instructions. It was called The Invitation. All it required was 3 things. A room with no windows. A single, hand-carved black candle. And your true name, spoken aloud at the final breath of midnight. It sounded like nonsense. The kind of thing bored kids dare each other to try. But I had read enough to know, sometimes, old stories are just truths we've forgotten how to fear. So I did it. The room was my basement. The candle I made myself, just like the instructions said, mixed with ash, bone powder, and wax from 7 different sources. And at 11:59 p.m., I sat in total darkness, waiting. When the clock struck midnight, I spoke my full name, the one my mother gave me. And as I said it, the candle sparked to life. Not a normal flame. It burned cold. Blue at the base. Black at the tip. And the light didn't push back the dark, it just made it deeper. That's when I heard the knock. Not at the door. Not on the walls. From beneath the floorboards. 3 soft knocks. Rhythmic. Measured. I didn't move. Couldn't. My body was frozen, but not with fear. With anticipation. And then, the shadows started rising. They slid up the walls like ink in reverse. Twisting. Growing. Writhing. Faces began to form, flickering expressions that weren't quite human. Some smiled. Some wept. And one stared at me with my own face. That's when I realized what I had done. The invitation wasn't to summon them. It was to join them. I tried to blow out the candle. But the flame wouldn't die. It danced, laughing silently, mocking me. And from the shadows, a voice whispered. You lit the flame. Now you are the offering. Since that night, I haven't been alone. I see the others now, those who've also called them. We pass each other on the street. Shadows that move before their hosts do. Eyes that don't blink. And me? I no longer sleep. The candle still burns. Not physically, but inside me. Behind my eyes. Beneath my skin. They're not haunting me anymore. They're inhabiting me. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more darkness from the creepy corner. Got your own terrifying encounter? Drop it in the comments, I might just bring it to life in the next video. Until then, keep your lights on, and don't look behind you.